So what bugs you? Have you ever had anything just drive you crazy? And you formulate the idea in your head how to solve the problem. You come up with the perfect solution. And then 6 months later, you walk into a store and the very idea that you had come up with, somebody had already beat you to it. It was your idea sitting on the shelf. You see, that's part of the human experience. Most of us at some point have experienced that. And the reason why is because built into our DNA is the ability to innovate and create. It's who we are. Let me give you an example. About 10 years ago, my wife and I were walking through a trade show, and we came upon the Garmin GPS booth. My wife went ahead and looked at all the GPSs, and she noticed that it was a very robotic sound. You know, it was just like...
Take exit 417 on left.
She goes,
to Tristram Avenue,
listening to my
then keep
toaster.
right.
I don't want to listen to that. She goes, how come they don't have like Antonio Banderas? Good morning, senorita. You look more beautiful today than you did yesterday. I mean, come on, she gets to write the script. Why not? For me, it'd be Heidi Klum, but I'm not good at impersonating hot chicks, so I'm not even going to try. So anyways, you know, that is an incredible idea. I looked at her and said, wow, that's good. And so then the national sales manager came up. We mentioned it to him. And we said, you know, why don't you do this? And he looked at us and said, you know, I don't know. I don't think that's such a good idea, and walked away. But today, you can buy a GPS system and download just about any celebrity voice you want. You see, my wife's idea was brilliant. It was awesome. She got it because all she did was fix what bugs her. It bugged her that she had to listen to a robot speak to her when she got in her car. Let me give you another example. There is a guy named Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, one of the greatest innovators of all time. And now what Ben did was he had a problem. He couldn't see very well. He couldn't see distance and he couldn't see close up. So he had 2 pairs of glasses that he was constantly toggling between. Lots of waste associated with finding them. He was struggling. And he finally said, you know, why don't I just take 2 different lenses, distance and close up, combine them together and make a focal glass. Now think about that. Isn't that the coolest idea? He went ahead and did that, and all Ben did was fix what bugs him. It was so simple. That's what I want to talk to you today about. I want to talk to you about how to create an innovative culture, how anybody can learn to innovate, and how all the people around you can understand what innovation is all about. But in order to do that, I got to take you on a little journey. When I was 17 years old, I just graduated from high school, and I went to work in a dusty little shop in Lemon Grove, California for a man named Bob Taylor, renowned guitar maker, Taylor Guitars. Now, Bob was faced with a problem. Besides the fact that Bob was making these beautiful instruments and he showed me how to make beautiful instruments, he was faced with the problem of adjusting the action on the neck just perfectly. And the problem was there was a dovetail joint, a traditional way of joining the neck to the body. It was very cumbersome to remove that neck multiple times to adjust it just perfectly. And Bob said, how come we don't just bolt the neck on? Well, that's very unorthodox. Woodworkers don't use bolts. But Bob didn't care. What Bob cared about was how can he make this magical playing instrument? So Bob went ahead and did that, and I got to witness this whole thing. And Bob created one of the most incredible playing guitars in the world, and it got the attention of Neil Young. And Neil Young bought a guitar, and Taylor Swift. And thousands of other renowned musicians play his guitars today. You know, Bob started off making 1 or 2 guitars a day when I worked there. Today they make 500 a day. It's really staggering the results that Bob has because he simply fixed what bugged him. It's really amazing. Is that me? It's not me. I love it when it's not me. Of course, I can't fix that. But it bugs me, believe me. Baby, fix that now. So Bob taught me how to innovate, and it was just awesome to be able to experience that. And then my next step along my innovation journey was I graduated from college and I went to school. I went to Mark Keppel High School to learn or to teach industrial arts. And if there's one thing that bugged me, it was education. I mean, I was a terrible student. I was a C and D student. I couldn't manage the education system. So I said, if there was one thing I was going to do, if I ever became an educator, I was going to fix that because it really bugged me. So I took over this industrial arts program that was very fledgling. It was not doing very well. That's me, the bearded wonder there. And I had just a few kids in my class. There wasn't many because the whole program had fallen apart. And I said, guess what, you guys? You can do anything you want. You can create anything you want. You want to make a chest of drawers. You want to make a bed. Anything you want, you can do. And they looked at me like, we're a bunch of punk little kids. We've never done any woodworking before. We don't even know what we're doing. And I said, don't worry about it. That's my job to teach you. It's your job to innovate. It's your job to dream. And what happened next was outrageous. They started building this beautiful furniture, beds and cedar chests, and beautiful inlay with marquetry, all the things that Bob Taylor had taught me. And I started conveying these things, and they made beautiful podiums for other teachers. And the teachers are going, man, this is crazy. Beautiful rocking horses inlaid with exotic woods. These were all from kids who have never done woodworking before. It was really amazing. But then what happened next was the story of Frank. Into this window, into this right here, there was a special ed teacher that walked in. And she said, Paul, we've heard about your program. You know, all your periods are completely filled. It's just going awesome. What do you think about mainstreaming in a couple special ed kids? And I said, maybe. And then I said, oh, okay, I'll try it. I was a little hesitant. I mean, we have big saws and very dangerous things. So we brought a few kids in, and I asked the other kids to help out. And these kids started excelling just like the other kids had excelled. And they were doing so outrageous. And then what happened next was a young man named Frank came up to me, and he built this beautiful cutting board out of walnut, purple heart, and maple. And when he finished the project, he came up to me and he said, Mr. Akers, Mr. Akers, Mr. Akers, I did it. I looked at Frank, I said, unbelievable. I knew you could do it. And at that moment, my life changed because I knew there was greatness in every human being. And I set out at that point in my life to make sure that my job was to uncover that greatness. Fast forward to 1997. It was an incredible year. Steve Jobs had just taken over Apple. I still had hair on my head. And I was in my shop late at night. I was a general contractor. I was a cabinet maker, and I was building some cabinets. I had to deliver the next morning. And the last thing I had to do was cover all the screw holes inside the cabinets. Now, traditionally, you see the picture on the right there. It's a little plastic cover cap with a nib that goes into the head of a screw. But I didn't like that screw cap cover because it always fell out, and it was a ton of work, and it was just a pain in the butt. And so I said, how could we make a more effective cover cap? And I said, how about peel and stick? So I went in to my wife. I got a creative memory stamp, and this is a reenactment of exactly what happened. I went over to my edge bander, got a piece of edge banding. I sprayed some contact cement on the back side of it. I asked my wife, she had one of those little stamps for scrapbooking. I got this Christmas tree stamp, and I put the adhesive on the back of the edge banding, and I stamped it out, and I took it and I put it over the screw hole, and it worked perfect. And I go, wow, this is incredible. I took that simple idea and I took it to a trade show in Anaheim. And the first month we sold $5,000 of this product. The next month we sold $12,000. The next month we sold $18,000. Then I developed a laser jam. We started selling thousands of those, a laser positioning device. It was really awesome what was happening. People started coming up to me and saying, Paul, we've heard your story. I've got an idea, and I've got an idea, and other general contractors were saying this to me. And I thought back to Bob Taylor, and I thought back to Frank. And I said, of course you have an idea. Everybody's got it built into them. I said, how cool would it be to develop a company based on taking other people's ideas, other people's creativity, honoring that, paying them a 5% royalty, even though they didn't have patents. Today, 15 years later, 600 products, 40 countries, 2,700 distributors around the world. Because all we did was fix what bugs us. We taught people the simple formula for innovation, and that innovation and that formula was so simple. Identify the waste, identify the struggle, and then simply fix what bugs you. You know, anybody can innovate. You don't have to be a general contractor. You don't have to be an industrial designer. I have a great story that happened to me. The other day, my wife and I met this girl named Tina, and she comes up to me and says, Paul, you know, I've got this problem with packaging that you buy from Costco and Home Depot. You could never get into it. We need to actually make a little knife with a little tiny point on the end of it that could just actually go in and cut the package open without damaging inside what's inside. And I looked at her and I said, Tina, that's brilliant. I mean, I struggle with that all the time. And so we went ahead and worked with Tina to develop that, and it's called Tina's Teeny Weeny Pink Pack Knife. And you know what? It works awesome. Now, Tina's not an industrial designer. She's not an engineer. She's a Jersey girl. I mean, who would expect that? But she comes up with this brilliant idea that solves this incredible problem because she simply fixed what bugged her. It's that simple. I'm going to give you 3 more incredible examples of people, ordinary people, coming up with extraordinary ideas that have really changed the way things are done. The next one is Brian Roche from Kansas. Brian is an industrial arts teacher, and he had a real problem with his students using the push stick when they were working with the tabletop. And they were always fumbling for the push stick. You can see it there, the yellow thing. And what happened was, he looked at it and he observed it and he said, well, why aren't they using it? And he simply said, you know, they're not using it because it's not in a convenient place and it gets pushed aside and it's not always predictably in the right place. So he said, how could I solve that problem? So Brian sends me a video. He's filming himself here and he says, Paul, you know, I took the push sticks and I kind of thought about, this is really driving me crazy. I need the kids to use it because they're going to cut their fingers off if they don't. So he went ahead and put a magnet in the end of it. And the magnet stands up. Now watch what happens when the student uses it. The push stick is always in the right place now. It's never kind of thrown about. It's absolutely in the perfect position. Because Brian fixed what bugged him. It is so cool what happened. Think of the thousands of fingers that are not going to be cut off in industrial arts classes now because Brian fixed what bugged him. It's that simple. The next one is Greg Glebe, Xylem Design in Colorado. Great guy, real lean thinker, just really analyzes. He understands that he has drill bits. Then they're never filled up. The drill indexes are always missing something. And the reason why is because they either break, and so he takes a little index to kind of size everything up. And he says that's a big struggle, and that's a pain in the butt. And then what happens is we don't put them away, so they go into this little container, and we all have these containers. We all have this problem. And then Greg says, hey, how about color coding the end of the drill bits? Wouldn't that be cool? Look how easy this is. He makes it so a kindergartner could do it. I could give a 4-year-old 10 drill bits from this index, and they could put it away perfectly every time. This is an age-old problem, and all Greg did was fix what bugs him. It's so incredible what happens when you take these simple principles. The last idea is so cool. Scott Berry, he's actually an aeronautical engineer, builds really cool aircraft for the military, but he's building a plane in his house. I mean, who builds a plane in his house, right? So Scott's underneath the cockpit in his garage, and he's drilling a hole in the cockpit. And all of a sudden, the debris starts coming down, and he realizes, man, I've got to clean that all up. So he gets out of his plane, turns on the vacuum cleaner, climbs back in, gets in a contorted position, vacuums everything up, climbs out, turns it off, climbs back in, and begins to work again. Total waste. I mean, a nightmare project. And Scott simply says to himself, how come the switch is on the vacuum cleaner? How come it's not on the sucking end, you know? How come it's not on the end of the vacuum cleaner? He makes a video, he says, Paul, we got to design something to put the switch on the end. We developed the RCV with Scott. It's the most incredible product. Everybody loves it. Simply because Scott fixed what bugs him. Think of all the energy you save with that vacuum cleaner only going on when you need to go on. You see, innovation is everywhere. It is swirling all around you. It is right underneath your nose. And if you're Greek like me and you have a big nose, you might have a few more opportunities than most people. You know, I just have one question for you. What bugs you? Thank you very much.